Hello, my Teaser King family. How is everybody today? I am fine. MMcgwire was on today, so we will talk about Mark. All right. So before we get to Mark, of course, we're going to start with gold. Then we'll go to the NCAA baskets. I didn't record every pick today. I will. But I did record the last six, so we'll see how we did on those. Gold right now, 30.13. It was 30.35. And then the 10 o'clock derivative, which absolutely makes no sense because they can't cover the gold when they take delivery on it. There's no gold to take. So how are they still doing this is beyond me, but it's ridiculous. And what are they trying to do? Oh, we don't want gold to go too high. Yeah, that worked at maybe 1,000, but at 3,000, I think people realize, people are starting to get into it. And we'll talk about that with MMcgwire. So we got 30.13, silver 32.87. As I said, until it hits 35, it isn't going anywhere. Yes, we know it's very highly demanded, and we know the supply is extremely low. But that doesn't mean Comex, with the price fixing, will let it go up. So that's what we have with that. So silver is a buy, and then gold 30.12. So we hit 30. Our next move is 3,500 on its way to 5,000, on its way to 10,000. So it takes a little bit of time, but do not worry. I wouldn't, oh my God, it's so high, I need to sell it. You can't take profit because there's nowhere to go with it. You're in gold. The last thing you want to do is sell it and get back into Titanic here. The boat's sinking. You don't want to get back onto the boat. So your only place to do this, you just hold the gold and silver. The goal is to hold the gold, is to get the gold and silver and accumulate it, not to profit take it. It's not a stock. People, for some reason, all they know is stocks, or they know options or ETFs. You want physical gold. You don't want ETFs. You don't want stocks. You simply want physical gold, and you put it in your safe, and you just watch the price go, and you just sit there, and it just, it is nowhere near top. It is nowhere near, well, it's gone up a lot, time to go. No, it's been suppressed for 50 years. This is a $10,000 an ounce thing if it's a $20,000 an ounce thing. So the fact it went from 2,000 to 3,000, it's not anywhere near where it's headed, right? So this is like Philadelphia in the Super Bowl. They get 20 points. It is not close to where they're going to end with. So keep that in mind. This is just starting. Just keep holding it, and you have no choice. You've got to get out of this. If you have 401ks and stocks, you must get out of it into this. If you have houses, they're going to crash because all the foreigners are getting out of it, crashing it. All right. So we'll check back with that later on. Let's check our basketball, and let's pick our basketball for today. So yesterday, I don't remember the early ones, so let's take a look. Just a second. Hello?
Hey, what's up?
I'm in the middle of class. I just started. What can I do for you? It's okay.
So I was
Yeah, figure about an hour.
Okay, well, call me because I'm up at my clinic. I was gonna see if you wanted to get me from here.
Oh, yeah, I just started. Okay, I'm
All
sorry.
right, I'm sorry. I'll let you go.
No problem. Love you. Bye. Um, all right, so let's see. All right, so our let's see. We had Creighton beats Louisville 89-75, Purdue 75-63. I don't think they cover. Wisconsin 85-66 over Joe Montana. I know I talked about that. Houston 78-40. I know I had Houston laying 28. They win by 38. Auburn against Alabama State. I don't recall our picks. They win by 20. McNeese State 69-67 over Clemson. Is that an upset? I don't know. BYU 80-71 over Virginia Commonwealth. We got Gonzaga over Georgia, win by 21, 89-68. We didn't play Georgia. I think we might have played the under. Tennessee 77-62 over Wolford. Arkansas 79-72 over Kansas. I chose very few teams. I played mostly totals. A&M 80, Yale 71. I'm noticing Arkansas, Kansas ended 151. A&M, Yale ended 151. There was a few 151ers that because a lot of the lines were 151, and I see 4 or 5 games that total was 151, which I was like, wow, something strange is going on. Drake 67-57 on Missouri. That was my first 5-star. Was Drake plus 6.5. UCLA 72-47 over Utah State is a 119, and we have under 144. That is a winner. UCLA with the tough D. St. John's and Omaha Steakhouse. St. John's over 149 was a 136, so we didn't get over. Omaha didn't score enough, as Omaha only has 53. We thought Omaha would score more. 136. We need a 149. Michigan under 142.5 is 13 is a winner. It's 133 under 142. That's a winner. Texas Tech and NC Wellington. This I got under 143.5 for. This is 154. That was a loser. So my 5-stars, Texas Tech did not stay under with UNC Wilmington, which is surprising. UNC Wilmington couldn't score a lot, and Texas Tech doesn't score a lot. Georgia under 151 loss, and Drake plus 6.5 won. So I go 1 and 2 on my 5-stars. Overall 3 and 3, and then I'll have to watch the video to look at the rest. Again, most of them were played as totals. But today we're going to write everything down. So let's go to today. 321, 12:15. So Baylor, Old Mississippi State. Old Mississippi State is 1.5, 48.5. Let's check it out. Old Mississippi State, last 5, they beat LSU 81-69, who's not in the, well, I'll see if they're in the tournament today. They weren't yesterday. They lost to Texas, who we see is not very good. They beat Arkansas, or they lost to Arkansas 93-92. They beat LSU, so the 2 wins were against LSU, who must be really bad. I guess Bobby's not playing for him. And then Old Missouri beat them 85-73. So there is a lot of points in these games. Baylor beat Oak State 71-61, TCU 61-58. Lost to Houston 65-61, beat K-State 70-56, and lost to Texas Tech 76-74. So we have that. Oak State. So they give up. So they play pretty low-scoring games, Baylor. 76 to T-Tech. They give up 56 to K-State, a 60-point game with Houston, 58 with TCU, and 61. So they're a pretty good defense. I'm not sold on Mississippi State. So I like Baylor getting 1.5. Let's go Baylor plus 1.5. Forget the total. All right. At 12:40, Alabama and Robert Morris. Alabama's a 2 seed. And I probably need to look at the line. Alabama 22.5, 168. Alabama must be an over team, I believe. Tennessee 79-76. Florida 99-94. So they play a high scoring game with Florida. Give up 100. They give up 90 to Auburn. They get 99-70 to Kentucky and lose to Florida 104. So both Florida games are very explosive. And at Tennessee, it was 79-76. So now we know why it's 160, which is the highest I've seen. The question is Robert Morris. Can they handle it? They beat Milwaukee 72-59, Indy 82-68, 83 on Wright State, 79 on Oakland, which is where I went for my undergrad, and Youngstown State 89-78. So they do score in the 80s. And they gave up 9. Alabama gave up 90 to Auburn, 99 to Florida, 104 to Florida, but that's a little different than Robert Morris. 79 to Tennessee and 70 to Kentucky. So there's a lot of not great defense, but how good? Well, let's look at the Oakland game. Oakland has a pretty good defense usually, 79-76. So we'll see. We'll look at that. Youngstown State 89-78. So we'll see. 89-70. So they could score a lot, Robert Morris. Alabama, this could actually get over if Robert Morris can score. They're 26-8. Alabama 168 is such a big number. So if we think Alabama can play some defense, Alabama will win by 20. Alabama's going to score 100 here. Question is Robert Morris. We need 70. Are we going to get that? Or are they going to get 80? So either Alabama minus 22.5 wins, or they don't. If they don't win, then they cover the over. Boy, I hate that. This should be a very high scoring game. Let's take Alabama minus the 22. Yeah, I hate that. I can't. I don't know if I can I go over 168? That's a big number. We'll go minus 22. Fucking Bama minus 22. All right, so Baylor starts in 7-8 minutes. So take Baylor, that's a good one, plus 1.5. Then you got Alabama 12:40. Then at 1:30, Iowa State Lipscomb. The 3 against 14. I like Iowa State 14.5, 143.5. Let's see how good Lipschitz is. All right, Iowa State beat Arizona 84-67. They lost to BYU in a close one, 88-85. Beats Kansas State 73-57. Cincinnati 76-56. And loses to BYU again 96-92. So BYU is the best team in the Big 12, it looks like. And Iowa State normally has a very good team. You can see they held teams to 56-57, and then against BYU, they gave up 88-96. So how good is Lipschitz? They beat Austin P 95-78, put up 78 on Central Arkansas, 84-66 on Central Arkansas again. Queens University, 81-75. Everybody's a queen there. Queen Elizabeth, Queen Esther, whoever the queens are. And then they beat North Alabama 76-65. So, again, this is the thing with basketball, right? Depending on who you play. So here's Austin P 95-78 they win, but then here's Central Arkansas, they give up 60. Obviously not that great of a defense. Northern Alabama 76-65. So what do you really do with it? It's a very difficult thing to know. Not sure. Iowa State. Now, they can score. So let's look at the line. Iowa State 14.5, 143.5. Can we get over? What does Lipschitz do? Does Lipschitz? They scored 90, 78, 84, 81, 70. So it should be 70s, 80s. And yeah, let's go over with Iowa State. Iowa State over 143. Not bad. It could get there. Lipschitz is 25-9. Iowa State 24-9. Now at 2:00, Memphis, Colorado State. Colorado State 1.5 and 147.5. So not a bad total, 1.5. So Memphis, they both won their last 5. They beat UTSA 75-70, South Florida 84-68, 83-80 on Wichita, Tulane 78. So they play pretty high scoring games. Colorado State puts up 83 on San Jose State, 83-73 on Boise, 67-59 on Nevada, 83-72 on Utah State, and a 69-56 on Boise. So even if you look at the Boise game, it's 83-73 and then 69-56. Should be some points in this game. So Colorado State's favored and 147.5. This is weird because Memphis is the 5 seed and Colorado State's favored. So I'm going to avoid that. You almost got to go with Memphis as a dog, as a 5 seed. I'm going to go over Memphis over 147.5. All right. Yeah, it's hard. Memphis 29-5. Colorado State 25-9 in the Mountain West. Yeah, they're both hot. You got to go with the points here, 147.5. Duke and Mount St. Mary's. Duke laying like 65. No, they're laying 32 with a total of 140. Now I have no idea. Duke's, I guess, the number 1 team or number 1, 2, or 3, and they have the one guy on their team that is injured, but okay. I was listening yesterday, and they go, "Oh, well, they should sit them down because this is an easy win, and rest them." It's like, really, This is basketball. Either the guy can run or he can't run. If you can't run, don't play him. If you can run, you might get hurt. Well, you might get hurt tripping in the shower. You can't play like that. All right, Duke beats Wake 93-60. A weak North Carolina team 82-69. Georgia Tech 78-70. North Carolina 74-71. And Louisville 73-62. This doesn't show me much. Not a great offense, not a great defense. I think they're overrated. Mount St. Mary's 62-52 over Marist, 62-58 over Marist. Merrimack 57-55, Iona 63-49, and American 83-72. They don't score a lot, and they got pretty good defense. So they're an under team, and Duke doesn't score a lot. We got to go under in this game. Over under a 140. So let's go Duke under 140. All right, Vanderbilt, St. Mary's. St. Mary's is the 7th seed, -4.5, 136.5. I wonder if Daggio Pavia is playing for Vanderbilt. Probably be their best player. Too bad he's not in the draft this year. That would be the number 1 quarterback. See, you don't think he is, but he's a winner. He beat fucking Alabama all by himself, and he almost beat Texas all by himself. And at Old Mississippi, at New Mexico State, he won a lot of games. So it's all him. He leaves New Mexico State. They didn't win anything this year. Vanderbilt starts winning. Him and Haynes Kings at Georgia Tech are the 2 best quarterbacks, I think, just because they're winners. Unlike Lamar. I got to get my Lamar dig in. St. Mary's. So who do we have here? Vanderbilt. St. Mary's, Gonzaga, 74-67. They beat Loyola Marymount, 58-55. Oregon State, 74-64. Pepperdine, 74-59. And lose to Gonzaga, 58-51. Not a lot of points there. A couple of 74s. You don't score a lot on them. They're an under team. Vanderbilt, 86-84 over A&M. Missouri, 97-93, and they're a tournament team. Arkansas is a tournament team. They lost 90-77. Georgia should not have been a tournament team. They lost to Georgia 79-68. They lost to Texas 79-72. What have we here? Well, they gave up 93 to Missouri in a win, and then the last 3 have been in the 70s to pretty weak teams. I think this is an under, let's see, 136.5. So we got to go under. We're going Vanderbilt under 136.5. Basically, under 136.5. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to take Vandy. They lost to Georgia and they lost to Texas, both shitty teams. And St. Mary's is okay, but I don't trust them as a favorite. So, yeah, I think St. Mary's probably wins the game. 4.5 is a tough line, and I think the under is the prudent play. North Carolina and Ole Miss. Now, what do you take with North Carolina? They beat San Diego State. Now they're a 1.5 point favorite. They shouldn't even have been in the tournament at 23-13. Now they're 1.5 over Ole Miss and a 155. I think this is a bad line. I think it's way too high. Ole Miss beats Oklahoma 87-84, Tennessee 78-76. Loses to Florida, loses to Auburn, and beats Arkansas. So they're not great. They got killed by Florida. They did lose a close one to Auburn. They're all over the place. 84, they give up to Oklahoma and Arkansas, and then 90 to Florida, and then a 62 to Auburn. Good luck with that. In North Carolina, gets killed by Duke 82-69, beats Notre Dame 76-56, Wake 68-59, and then loses to Duke in a close one 74-71. And then they beat San Diego State 95-68, which is just, how bad is it? The question is, how good's Ole Miss? Their wins are Oklahoma, Tennessee, who's pretty good, lost to Auburn and Florida, and did beat Arkansas, who's pretty good. Most of them have been close. North Carolina loses to Duke, Notre Dame's, I don't even think in the tournament, Wake, San Diego State, who wasn't very good. I got a pretty good defense from North Carolina. They're not going to score 95 on Ole Miss. So, what do we got? 1.5, 155 and a half. I'm going to go under here. North Car under 155. There's no way I would take North Carolina to win this game. They're laying 1.5. That line, Ole Miss should be favored. North Carolina shouldn't be here. They played Duke, who's not really that good, and lost to them twice. And people are looking at that San Diego State game, and it's skewing them because it's like in football. You win 40-0, and then the next week you're a 7-point favorite, and you shouldn't be favored, but they're looking at the last game. So that's what you have there. Finally, my favorite team, Grand Canyon, the Antelopes. Are there a lot of antelopes in the Grand Canyon? Against Maryland. Maryland 10.5, 149.5. Grand Canyon 26-7 this year. They must go to the other canyons and play them. Is there the court, is it in the canyon or not? Hey, Prophet. Just curious where the court is in the Grand Canyon. I was there when I was real young, just a big fucking hole. I don't know. Let me get to Vegas at Caesar's Palace. That's where I wanted to be. Maryland beat Penn State 68-64, beat Michigan 71-65, beat Northwestern 70 again. Illinois, I don't know any of these teams, and then they lost to Michigan 81-80. So they played pretty close. The Grand Canyon beat Utah Tech, 90-68, lost to Abilene Christian 82-81. They beat Texas Arlington 98-75. California Baptist, look at the schedule, a bunch of high school teams, 75-66. Utah Valley 89. Look at this. They beat Utah Tech and Utah Valley. I'm impressed. 89-82. So they could score a little. They scored 90, 81, 98, 89, and then a 75 on Cal Baptist. Must have a good defense. Maryland scores 88 on Illinois, 80 on Michigan in the 70s. How do I go against my Grand Canyon? Yeah, you got to take Maryland here. Lay the 10. Yeah, Grand Canyons, I mean, they're playing high school teams. Maryland, okay, they lost to Michigan, but they did beat Michigan. They are 25-8. I don't know how they're a 4 seed, but that's it. Profit. So I went 11-5 yesterday in March Madness following your formula. Not bad. My formulas work. Look at the gold price, right? You have to understand, I analyze things in a certain way in which I think is going to be successful. And so I can carry it from football to basketball to baseball to gold and silver, and it's the thought process and the problem solving. What I am is a problem solver. The problem is picking the winner. So I look for variables, and this is why I say it's very hard for AI or Nick wants to keep doing formulas for us. It's very hard because of the variables. How do you put them in your formula? So yeah, the defensive team's going to win the game because they can shut down the offense. And that's been true since Lombardi in the 60s and the Steelers in the 70s and Jimmy Johnson at Oklahoma State and then at Miami. you had the defense, you just shut them down, and that's what it is. So I'm glad you made some money. I was 1-2, but I don't know what all my picks were. I just know I had Drake on that formula, and then Georgia I went under. And they gave up 100 points, and then Texas Tech I went under, who never scores a lot, scored a lot, and that's where you get in the first round. We'll be better in the second round when you don't have the high school teams in it as much. Florida against Norfolk State. We're just going to take Florida minus 28.5. I'm not even going to check Norfolk State. 1 against 16, Florida 30-4. I've seen by looking at the other teams, they score a lot, and they're just going to kill them. They're an A team. Troy and Kentucky. Kentucky 11.5, 150, 1.5. All right, Troy. They beat Texas State 74-69, 70-58 on Southern Miss, 75-59 Old Dominion, 79-60, and then Arkansas State 94-81, where I don't know where that came from. Kentucky loses to Auburn 94-78. They beat everybody seems to beat LSU, Bobby. 95-68. Missouri 91-83 is a good team. Oklahoma 85-84, and loses to Alabama 99-70. So they gave up 94 to Auburn, 99. Troy doesn't see the score. They scored the 70s. They had that one game, 94, which is surprising because Arkansas State should be pretty good if they played them in the third round of their conference tournament. If we look at Kentucky, high scoring with Missouri and Oklahoma. So they're pretty high scoring. Troy, let's see what this number is. 11.5, 150. Let's go over here. Let's go Kentucky over 151. Again, that 151 number. Amazing. Now we're at night, 7:30, Marquette, New Mexico. Marquette 4.5, 152.5. Prophet Clemson came out flat, but they came very close to pulling out the last second victory over McNeese. So did you have Clemson? I only wrote down the last 6. Yeah, it's amazing you'd come out flat in a tournament. Like, bad coaching. All right, Marquette, New Mexico. Marquette is 4.5, 152.5. Oh, not 151, but 152.5. New Mexico 26-7, Marquette 23-10. Yeah, Clemson is very strong defensively. So we have it under. I don't remember. If they're strong defensively, I more or less took them under. I don't know. I'll have to listen to the video, but I didn't bet any of these. Like I said, my top 3, I went 1-2, but let's improve on that today. Okay. Marquette beat Georgetown 76-61, lost to Connecticut, only scoring 66, lost to St. John's 86-84, who's a high-scoring team. Xavier 89-87, another high-scoring game, and then St. John's again. They lost 79-63, so Marquette struggled against St. John's. Here's New Mexico. They beat the Air Force 92-71, Nevada 71-67, Vegas 81-67, San Jose State 63-52, and lost to Boise 72-69. So they had a high-scoring game with Vegas and Air Force, and then 130s with Boise and Nevada. Marquette played more high-scoring games. Judging by these tournaments, I think they're probably more high-scoring. Again, 152.5. Marquette. Well, I got to make a pick, don't I? Now let's go over with Marquette. Over 152. Akron against Arizona. Arizona 14.5, 166. Wow. Big number. Arizona's a 4 seed, 22 and 12. Seems like a bad 4 seed. 22 and 12 should not be 4 seeds. All right, let's see what's going on here. So they beat Arizona State 113-100. Kansas, they lost to 80, only scoring 76. They beat Kansas again in the first round, 88-77. 86-80 on Texas Tech, and they lost to Houston 72-64 with that great defense. So they do struggle against. So let's see what Akron does. Beat Toledo 96-87, Buffalo 88-70, Bowling Green 96-67. They beat Toledo 100-90 and Miami 76-74. More than likely they will score, which is why you got such a high over, but I don't see it from Arizona as not high. I think this 166, I'm going under. Arizona under 166. That's just too high. I don't see. It's not like Arizona scores 100 points a game, and not like Akron played a lot of 130, 140 games. So I think this number is way too high. Oklahoma and UConn. UConn 5.5, 147.5, an 8 against the 9. I don't know. Oklahoma, I hadn't seen much from them that would make you want to take them as a dog. UConn beats Providence, Marquette, Seton Hall, Villanova, and loses to Creighton. 71-62. Creighton wins. None of their wins, they scored a lot. They beat Seton Hall 81-50, must suck. Villanova 73-56. Creighton 72-66 against Marquette. Oklahoma give up 87 to Ole Miss. They beat Missouri 96-84, Texas 76-72, Georgia 81-75, and they lose to Kentucky 85-80. So I'm seeing a lot of 84s. Oklahoma doesn't have the defense. UConn 5.5. Let's go under here. I'm tempted to take UConn to win because Oklahoma's defense sucks. But we'll go under. No, let's not. Let's go UConn minus 5.5. Oklahoma won't be able to do much. All right, 9:45. Illinois 145 or 45, 4.5 and 165. Illinois 21-12. Xavier, the Three Musketeers 22-11. And we've got Illinois beats Iowa 81-61, Michigan 93-73, Purdue 88-80, Iowa again 106-94, and then get killed by Maryland 88-65. I don't know what happened there, unless Iowa's really bad. Xavier beats Creighton 83-61, Butler 91-78, Providence 76-68, 89-87. They lose to Marquette. And then I guess in the play-in game, they beat Texas. Yeah, we had Xavier 86-80 over Texas. We were betting against Texas because they had no defense. So Xavier's already won a game in the tournament. Texas is not very good. Providence, Butler, Creighton, that's probably a good one, 83-61. Marquette, they lost. So they do score Xavier, as does Illinois. This is going to make this an over. Oh, and this is a 160. Well, I can't take Illinois minus. Xavier beat Texas. Let's go over. Let's go X over 160. Should be high scoring. Both teams can score. Let's just see what this Texas score was. Again, Texas 86-80 is a 166 with Texas. So, yeah, I feel comfortable. Illinois scores. Let's make this our 5-star, our first 5-star right here. Xavier over 160. Bear Bryant against Michigan State. Michigan State 17.5, 152. Good defense, rebounding team. Bear Bryant, he's a football coach. So I don't know what he's doing here. Hello, hello, hello. All right. So we've got Michigan State beats Wisconsin 71-62 is a good one. Iowa apparently sucks. They beat Michigan 79-62. They beat Oregon, good football team. And then they lose to Wisconsin. So they beat them 71-62 and lost to them 77-74 in the conference finals. So what do we see there? Pretty good defense. Iowa got 84 on them. Otherwise, they're in the 70s, and they don't score a lot. The Bryant Bulldogs. They beat Maine, good team Maine, 80-72. New Hampshire, 90. Again, they're playing the high school team, and they beat Maine 20. Pretty good. I got to go under here. I mean, who the fuck knows? Let's go on 152. Are you kidding? MSU under 152.5. Let's make this our second 5-star. Michigan State with a good defense. That's a big number, 152. Bryant, they play high school teams. Well, how are you supposed to analyze that? In our last game, the 10-10 game, we got Oregon against Liberty. Oregon 24-9, not as good as their football team. Liberty 28-6, not as good as their football team. So let's see. What do we got here? Oregon beats USC, who's not a basketball team. Indiana, Bobby Knight's not there anymore. Washington, all right, Indiana again, and then they lost to Michigan State. So they really didn't play anybody except for a weak Indiana team and a Washington, and none of those teams are in there. Pretty good defensive teams. The highest score was 83 against them. Against Liberty, Middle Tennessee State, 86-61, 90-61 West Kentucky, 81-60 Utah, Tennessee State 81-79, and Jacksonville State 79-67. So they do score, Liberty, and they have pretty good defenses. So they might be a very live dog in this game. 7.5. I like Liberty plus the 7.5 here. 137. Yeah, they should be able to stay in the game because I don't think Oregon's all that good. So there you have it. Baylor plus 1.5 should be. Old Mississippi State's up 15-14. So I gave Baylor plus 1.5. Alabama minus 22.5. Iowa State over 143. Memphis over 147. Duke under 140. Vandy under 136.5. North Carolina under 155. Mary minus 10.5. Florida minus 28.5. Kentucky over 151. Marquette over 152. Arizona under 166. Connecticut minus 5.5. Xavier over 160, 5-star. Michigan State under 152.5, 5-star. Liberty plus 7.5. And yes, I am going against the Grand Canyon. All right, let me see if Alyssa still needs me and I can come back. I wanted to get the basketball done. Well, Baylor, the game's already started. You can't bet it now. I did take Baylor plus 1.5.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, what's up?
I did my basketball part of the class, so I could come get you now if you still need a ride and you still want to come over.
Well, my Uber's about to pick me up, but we could go to dinner or something like that.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good then.
All right, sorry about yesterday, but
Nah.
it slipped my mind when I was talking to you that Summer had a music concert at 6:30. So
That's no problem. Okay, so what time tonight?
I'm not exactly sure. Like I gotta see about Summer and Selena and
Okay.
all that. But yeah, I'm trying to get out so we can see each other.
Yeah, so you,
Yeah.
yeah, I miss you too. So you got a ride now?
Yeah, I got an Uber coming, but my phone's about to die, so I gotta have my phone to make sure I can track the ride.
Okay, do that. And then, so where are you going? You want me to get you? Where you going home or what?
Yeah, I'm going home. If there's a nice enough time, then I will give you a call earlier. But if not, then around dinner time.
Okay, that sounds good. I'm doing class and then I'll go to the pool and then I'll be free.
Okay, all right. Have fun.
Okay.
Enjoy your class.
All right. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So that's basketball. Yeah, the Baylor game's already started. That was the 12-15 game. 15-14 over Old Mississippi State's winning. So that's what you have. So yesterday, I don't know. I was I don't know what I was. I got to go look at the tape. I know I didn't take Georgia unless I played the total in the game. And there was, like I said, there was 4 totals that were 151, I think, where the score ended 151. Anyway, so we got MMcgwire today. We got gold today. You had it before, yeah. So yeah, I took Baylor. That. So we got MMcgwire and we got gold and silver about to explode. It's up to 30.15. So it got knocked down to 30.05. Look at that 10 o'clock drop. But I think they're waiting for it. And then when it ends at 10 o'clock, that's the US price fixing it. And you wonder why they do that. And then it goes back up. Or it's just Europe doing it. And then it's 30.15. So they lose a lot of money in their derivatives. So not really clear what the hell they're doing. And I doubt they are. Thought there was an Egon one I looked at. Maybe that was yesterday. I was watching this one. Foods you shouldn't eat, top 10 foods that destroy your blood sugar and make you sick. But we've covered them. It's fruity drinks, Coke and Gatorade and stuff like that, or uh, tea or coffee with sugar in it, not the way we eat it with cinnamon and pretty clean. That was the first group. So stay away from your pops and that. 2 was your breads. I think we're okay with the pita bread, but you stay away from the regular breads and everything. A lot of sugar and carbs in that. White rice, stay away from. That's when I get Chinese. She gives me white rice, I just throw it out. I don't want it. That's why I don't get the combination at Chinese where you get the fried rice. Um, you just That's why I get the dinner. I get all chicken, which is what I want. Then there's obviously candy, but the dark chocolate 85 is okay because there's a lot of fat in it and a lot of the cocoa, which is very healthy for you. Honey, you need to be like you can. I just dip a little of honey into my coffee or tea. It's not. I'm not filling the spoon. It's just the top of the. I'm just like digging this in. It's like just this much of honey, just for a little flavor and for health. But I'm not putting a whole teaspoon of honey in there. Um, there was cereals. You don't want cereals. Obviously Frosted Flakes and Fruit Loops, but then there was even Corn Flakes and Rice Krispies you don't want, oatmeal you don't want. So all that you don't want. It's all carbs. It's all sugar. Stay away from the high fructose corn syrup. As I've shown you, ketchups and barbecue sauce have it, but you want to have you want to have the ketchups, and you want to have like what I have, where I have the Ken's dressing, which has no high fructose corn syrup. It has some sugar, but you don't have a lot of it, but it's still better than high fructose corn syrup. Um, I got through the first five, but that it's the same thing we already know about: the breads, the carbs, the white rice, the cereals, the candy, and the ice cream, of course, and the pop and those orange juice and Gatorade stuff you don't want, which is why you end up with a lot of water with ginger and cinnamon. My cup's not dirty, that's cinnamon. And eat that, a lot of fruits and veggies, more veggies than fruits, and a lot of meat. And that's how you stay healthy. And that's basically what he's saying, which we already know because that's where I got it from.
Do not buy new windows.
Well, I got to watch this video. Why you were not school smart. I was terrible in school. It was so boring. All right, let's go to Mark. All right, first the Stoic lesson, one of these 1 minute ones.
People don't respect you unless you remove these 4 habits. Start today and watch how everything changes. 1. Stop complaining. Complaints make you a victim. Real men take responsibility for their situation. If you don't like something, change it. 2. Stop seeking approval. If you're constantly looking for validation, you're weak. Marcus Aurelius said, "The opinion of others is irrelevant. Focus on your own standards, not theirs." 3. Stop being passive. If you wait for life to happen, it won't. Be proactive. Take action. Stoicism teaches, control what you can and let go of the rest. 4. Stop making excuses. Excuses breed mediocrity. Men of value never blame circumstances. They take the hard road and rise above. Eliminate weakness. Ever been told you look younger? It's not luck. It's stoicism.
So that's what I'm dealing with Daria. I can only control what I can control. So I can only text her, "Good morning, how are you today?" And then if I don't get a response, but then there's nothing I can do. But then but I know how she feels about me. So it's just that. But then there was some other Stoic that I watched where um, it's not me, it's her. That's why she's not contacting me. She gets into her own little, she needed surgery on her cheek. So she gets all frayed and she doesn't bring that, she doesn't want to talk to me, doesn't want to talk to anybody, she doesn't want to show her fear, or she's trying to figure it out. And I know she was going to have that little minor operation this week. So I'm assuming that's why she hasn't talked to me in the last few days. She was supposed to get her perfume, which I got her for her birthday. And then I've been waiting. She got the CAT scan, so she was getting the test. So as far as I know, Tuesday she was getting the results and she was getting her perfume that she had to order for her birthday. And then I haven't heard from her, so I assume she's getting the minor operation yesterday or today, and she's obsessed by that. But here's where everybody gets screwed up. In a stoic world, all I can do is say, I love you, have a good day, good luck, I hope you're okay. Please keep me in the loop. Like, why. But if she, I guess if, let's say you had a final exam, you don't want to talk to anybody. You just want to focus on that. Or you got a big assignment at work and you got a budget to do and you want to focus. Or me with football or even basketball, I want to focus on my football. I need time to myself to figure it out. And now I will still, if she were to text me, I would take time to respond to the text. And I think what's happening with her is she needs this little operation. So she's focusing on herself, how to handle it and how to deal with it. And she's afraid, and I'm not there, obviously. So she's doesn't want to, she's trying to focus on how to deal with it. And that's why, so her focus is on that, not on me. And that's why I wonder, my confusion is, I texted you, why aren't you reading the text at least without responding to me? How do you not, don't you care? Why aren't you responding? But now I'm under, it's like me with football. Let me finish the football, then I'll respond. And with football, there's 132 teams, so it takes a while. Usually I take breaks. I go through a couple conferences, then I'll answer responses. But with that said, this is what her problem is basically it's basically looking at I don't know who that is, and I'm not answering it. So with her, what you have to learn is that this stuff bothers her. She's preparing for it. She's psychologically, it's hard on her. And so she's just in her own little place dealing with it. Sort of like a boxer getting ready for a fight or a football player getting ready for the game. He's got to concentrate, right? Certain movies, they're getting ready for the operation and the guy's like, he needs to focus on it. He needs to get ready for it. So I think that's what she's doing. She's psyching herself up. So she doesn't want to talk to me on it. Not that she doesn't want to talk to me, but that's kind of how it comes across. Like, why aren't you reading it? But I know she has this operation and I'm hoping it's today and I hope everything went well. But that has always been my confusion. Why aren't you reading my text? Just like here, Prophet sends me, I had it before anyways, and Baylor in 1.5, but I respond to it. So if I don't respond to it, he's like, what the fuck? Why isn't he responding to it? Or if he sends me an email, why aren't I responding? Now, I won't respond if there's nothing to respond to. But if he does ask a question, I'll respond to it. And that, I think, is what we're done. I think it's more from my job, where my job is a financial analyst at usually car companies. So you get a lot of emails and you got to respond to them. And I think that's the key, is the response of when you don't get a response, you're like, why not? Oh, the guy's busy. Well, if I carry this to Daria, she's busy, right? Why isn't she responding to me? She's busy. She's busy with her health. She's busy with her daughter's got those strange, she's got like tonsillitis, but they want to check her stomach for it. The way for your stomach is to drink a lot of water because it neutralizes everything. So that's what she's focusing on, is between her daughter being sick and her being sick. That's the focus. It's not that she doesn't want to talk to me or doesn't want to read my shit. She does. I'm I'm sure she does. I know when she's telling me the way she's saying it, she's real. We're waiting for the war to end and we can be together, which is really frustrating. For an example, with this girl yesterday, I called her for dinner at 4 o'clock. She says, fine. I go, I'm going to go swim and I'll be over in an hour. And she says, okay. And then I drive, I call, no answer. I arrive. She says, oh, we got, my daughter's got a a little play at school. I can't make it. Now, being stoic, I said, well, why didn't you call me to say not to come? And instinctively, as an INFJ, I knew something was up when I called and she didn't answer. I says, oh, we're not meeting. But because I did say I will come by, I came by. I pull up. We got to go to the school for my daughter. I can't make dinner. No, I didn't get upset because I kind of figured it out that that's probably why she's not answering it. But I didn't get upset. And now she apologized. Oh, well, let's do it tonight. And I said, that's fine. I don't make a big deal about it. That's the stoic part. I can only control Howard. I can only look at the games and pick them. That's why I don't want to hear outsiders telling me what to do. I do it on my own. That's why I'm really hard to work with. I really have a hard time working for somebody because I don't want to really listen to them. I want to get details and I'll make my decision and I'll make my spreadsheets and just like in football, I want to design everything. So, but my friend is helping me with Daria without her realizing it. Why didn't you call me to tell me to cancel? She's busy with the daughter. And that's where it's kind of a microcosm of Daria. Well, why aren't you reading my WhatsApp and let me know what's going on? Because she's busy with herself or her daughter. And so it's the same thing. She doesn't really have time. There's a difference in the time change. And so all I can say is in your lives, if you have people, you're sending out a message, you expect a response. And when you don't get the response, you're pissed. You're going, why aren't they responding? How rude, what the fuck, why aren't they responding? And it's not that they don't want to. I mean, this is a friend that you've dealt with, right? A personal friend more than a work friend. And, somebody that you're like, why aren't they responding? Oh, they don't like me anymore. And you jump to conclusions and you can't. You can only control the fact you sent them a message. And then you wait to hear back. But probably most of the time they're busy. I mean, if you're in the relationship where I text her, she texts me back most of the time, or like my friend here, if it's unusual for them not to respond. So they're busy and you can't take it personal. Like, oh, they don't oh, well, Daria doesn't like me anymore. She didn't respond. You can't go there because she does like you. That's why she is responding. That's why she shows you pictures. That's why she wishes you happy birthday. So it's all very much that's what's going on. You can tell if a person normally responds to you, they like you. That's why they're responding. And if they then don't respond, it's probably not you. It's they're busy. So don't lose your mind as I do sometimes. I'm used to patterns, and that's how I pick so well. So my patterns say, bet this team, bet that team, buy gold, buy silver. And that's really what happens. So it's a good stoic practice that, if you like somebody and you start talking to them and they respond, to when you send them a message and they don't respond, it's not because they don't want to respond to you or they don't like you. It's more they're busy on their own. They're doing something that they're busy, but they know you like them, or they know you're Daria knows I'm her man. So she's not worried about that. She knows if she doesn't respond right away, she will respond. So I got to know that too. And, I never think she's with she left me for somebody else. I never think that. That's not what this is. But you are wondering, and then it's just usually she's busy. Usually she's sick. She gets sick a lot. It's Russia, high blood pressure or something like that. In this case, her tooth, and she gets upset and she focuses on that. And so it's not that she doesn't have time for me. She just doesn't want to talk to anybody. And then after hopefully the surgery was today and it went well, and then she can then say, okay, I had it, everything's well. She had the CAT scan and she told me she was looking for the results. So who knows what the results were. That was on Tuesday. So that's why I might not have heard anything yet. But the doctor was supposed to schedule it. So she's probably still scared, even though it's a minor operation. That's just how she is. So if be careful of expecting the response at a specific time. And if you don't get the response, be careful. Don't twist it into thinking, oh, well, she doesn't like me. Oh no, it's because she doesn't like me. She didn't respond. She's with somebody else. No, she's busy with something else. And knowing that you'll understand it, right? She knows that I'll understand whatever it is she tells me. And I'm not going to hold it against her. So she knows that. Well, I know I got Howard. He's a good man. I trust. She says, I'm safe with you. I looked that up. It's some sort of, here, I'll read that. So there's a few Russian things. Let's see. So she sent me a few things. Let's see. So I feel safe. So she says, I feel safe with you. Now that's a Russian thing. I go, what does that mean? Getting these words from a girl should mean a lot to you. Firstly, it tells you that she likes you, but not only that, she says she feels safe. That means she feels confident you are trustworthy. You won't force or put pressure on her to do stuff she isn't ready for. She feels that she can tell you anything and that she feels that you care about her and her well-being. So this is not a girl that says, I feel safe with you, that you then that is not going to talk to you, right? Because it's not easy for like a Russian girl to feel safe with somebody because they get screwed over by the Russian guys. So that's how she feels safe with me. And there was a few others. I'm with you. So she knows I'm with her. She knows I'm taking care of her. She's not ignoring me. So when you got to put two and two together, you get these comments. When you get those comments, then what you do is when she doesn't text you, you just all you can do is sit.
It is incredible how many things he wrote about, things that were undeniably, even obviously true. We're privileged to be witnessing.
All that you can do is you know how she feels, and so it's not she's with somebody else. It's not she's ignoring you. She's into her doctor, or who knows what's going on with her daughter. She's probably worried about that. The puzzlement on WhatsApp is she'll be online. And when she's online, you go, why isn't she texting me? Because she could be on the phone, she could be on her email. It doesn't mean she's on WhatsApp, or she could be talking to her mother or friend or something on WhatsApp. So it's not, she sees that I'm messaging her and she's happy about that, but she doesn't have time to read it, or her English isn't that great. So she might not have time to translate, but most of it, I think she can read. Anyway, so you sent out an email or call to your friend, you're expecting a response. And that's what it's about. It's not necessarily they're ignoring you or they don't want to respond. It's more they're busy with something and they don't have time to talk to you. Right. So like my other friend who just called, now I understand her. So when she said, "Oh, I got my daughter's got this program," I did not get all upset and yell at her and everything. I didn't make her feel bad. I just said, "Okay, well, I'll see you today." And that's what the call was. Come get me. I said, "Well, if you would have called me earlier, I would have started class earlier." And then I was going to quit after basketball, but she said she's going to go home or you Uber or whatever. So we'll get together for dinner. And I said, "Okay, fine." So I'll finish class and then I'll go swim and then I'll meet her for dinner, which is perfectly fine. Um, and that's really the key to it is understanding the person. Like I understand now, I take that to basketball and football, more to football, understanding the team. And then you're going to play the bet based on understanding the team. And as I teach you in economics, we're understanding the gold and the silver and the dollar and the inflation and the markets, the defense contractors, the government to make our decision. Do we want to be in the stock market, gold or silver? And we analyzed that, and the analyzation was to go into gold and silver because we realize that the dollar's worthless and they print it, and there's no way back from a $37 trillion debt. You're fucked. At best, you can get gold and do that, but we don't have money. Gold's getting too expensive, so they could buy silver. It makes silver $10,000 an ounce. That's the only way out of it. They can't default. They default, they're dead because they spend too much money. Um, Now I know there's a change in Social Security. Now I normally get a direct deposit. I don't go in. I went in to set it up, so I think they already know me. So I don't know if I need to go in. Like people have to go in with ID because there's a lot of fraud. But I think I've already been. They've already checked me, so I don't think I need to go in. I guess I'll find out the second Monday of April, and if I don't get my direct deposit, I'll be surprised. Um, and that's knowing them, it'll probably be in a year or 6 months or something, not necessarily next month. Um, anyway, so you got to understand things. So before you get upset at people, understand the person. Like, why isn't Daria responding? It's because she's obviously scared of the operation or her daughter. Her mind's elsewhere, and she is focusing, as I would. If I had to get an operation, I'd be a little upset, and I would probably want to talk to Daria, but that's what I would see. And where me and Jenna, we talked every day, but Jenna wasn't working, and her kids were grown up where Daria still has a young daughter, and that's where it's different. Uh, so now the daughter's sick, so she's got to worry about that too. Now she knows I'm there for her. She needed money for the CAT scan, so it was like $40, so I gave it to her. Um, so she knows I'm there. So I'm the last person she's ignoring or cheating on or anything. I don't even think that. No, she realizes what I am and uh, how good I am towards her. It's not the type of person you do that. So she's not ignoring me, but it's getting me frustrated. Where's the text from Daria in the morning? And that's what's upsetting me. But now it's almost how I get guided to Alyssa telling me the things. I say, "Oh, that's just like Daria. You're both kind of scrambled eggs, and you're both doing things like that." So anyway, if you are when I'm at work, you get emails from your bosses and coworkers, and you respond to them, and you send out an email, and you get a response. So you get used to that. So when I send out a text to her, I'm expecting a response. And same thing with Alyssa, but I don't always get them right away from them because they're into their own little worlds. Where with Jenna, I do. I haven't talked to Jenna in a while, but when I did, we would talk every day. She got a little weird at the end, but I think it's just the war, and I think she's just stressed out, and so I'm kind of leaving that alone. But anyway, let's talk about MMcgwire now. So I wanted to get that as long as I was talking Stoic. So if you talk to now, if it's somebody that you know who you normally talk to, your family members, your girlfriend, your kids, friends from football or whatever, and you normally have conversations with them and you know them quite well, and you send them a message on the phone or a text or an email, don't get upset at them if they don't respond right away. Some people don't, some people have other things going on, but it's not because they don't want to talk to you. So understand that, keep that in mind. That's not why they're doing it. So with that said, you can only control what you you can only control what you can control. I can control sending the text or the WhatsApp or the call. I can't control the response. So keep that in mind. Now with Alyssa, I did call her and say, hey, if you want, I can end class. We've gone over basketball and I'll come back later and do this. And she was already, no, I'm going to do that, but we'll get together for dinner. Okay, fine. So I responded back to her as I said I would. So let's go to MMcgwire. Doggy races to repatriate U.S. gold. All right. So
The early stages of a gold price revaluation, which is an ongoing process, not a single event.
They now have to keep printing or we crash.
Because really what we're seeing is a drain of paper market price setting liquidity, and it is flowing out into the physically settled exchanges. So I'm happy to go out on a limb with price discovery migrating out of this legacy car sales sphere of influence. It's getting a lot easier, and that's why 3,000 wasn't hard to figure out. So what I'm saying is this. Because of this drain of paper market liquidity into the physical markets, the lines have crossed irreversibly, and we are evidencing a real physical gold price emerging. And as we will see, it's got a long way to go yet. And as we drew attention to in our last episode, which was 2 weeks ago, the gold market bear squeeze is actually gaining momentum. And a look at this last 2 weeks action really does provide us more evidence of the race to short cover ahead of 1st of July, Basel III compliance. It's a big deal. Let's start by looking at the larger picture then. Then we'll look at the end of the quarter footprints. And based on what we are once again seeing in the tight for supply of physical markets, then we'll have some projections for the end of the next 3 quarters into 2026. It's not about the Fed or tariffs. We're privileged to be witnessing the early stages of a gold price revaluation, which is an ongoing process, not a single event. We're witnessing it. We're privileged to see this historic thing unfold. However, there will be some inflection points, which we will, as we witnessed, and they're bullish ones, as we witnessed when the Shanghai Futures Exchange launched at $2,000 back in March last year. And now a similar bullish driver is the run-up to the 1st of July. And we'll look at that a bit closer in a little while. But all our projections have relied upon where central bank sovereign buy interest is, and it's been steadily stair-stepping higher. It's now become impossible for fund managers to ignore gold, gold has outperformed every single other asset class. And this huge untapped source of investment flows have yet to come into gold, and they're only just waking up to it. And I think Peter Grandish said the average fund manager has maybe 0.5% exposure.
So what's happening is gold is outperforming stocks and bonds and real estate and annuities, everything, right? And that's the key. Gold, well, if you look at gold for the year, at 30.16, it's starting to move up for the afternoon. See, look how quick it came up from that 3005, boom, 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 3016. But if we look at this, forget today. Today's today. In the last month, it's up 3%. In the last 6 months, 15. And in the last year, 40. And I'll take you back to the last 5 years, which is when we started buying it more seriously. We're up 93%. But let's just take the last year. You're up $800 per ounce and 40%. You're not making 40% in the stock market. And this is a real gain. So that's what he's saying is people are, you make more in this than you are in stocks, which is making the fund managers, portfolio managers take notice because they're based on returns, right? So they can make 40% in gold with no risk because this is not this is not a stock. You're not selling this to profit take. So Apple, you might buy at 100 and it's 120 and now you take your profit. Imagine being in Tesla. Tesla was $450 a share, is down to $220. At what point are you sweating? Oh, I'll just hold it for the long term. So wait a minute. You bought it at, let's say you bought it at 300 and went up to 440. You didn't take the profit, and now it's down to 220 because the guy can't sell a car. How long do you hold it? Wait till it goes down to $50? You could have made profit. This is why I say you must take your profit in stocks, right? You've got to take in stocks, you profit take, but you can't do it in gold because okay, so let's say I'm in Tesla at 300. It goes up to 440. Now it's 220. Oops, I missed my opportunity. Now I'm losing money. At what point do I sell it? But let's say I sold it at 440. I can sell it and take profit at 440 because I'm now going to look and buy Apple or buy Amazon or buy Coca-Cola. I can get into another stock. That's what I'm going to do with it, right? I'm going to go stock A. Oh, I made my money. Get out. Stock B now. I made my money. Stock C. I mean, that's the idea. You don't want to hold it too long because as you can see, now Tesla's at 220. You bought it at 3. You could have got out at 440, but you think you know everything, and that stocks don't go down. And in the meantime, the stock got killed at 220. What do you hold it and hope it gets back to 300, or do you get the hell out of it? Or should you have taken the profit? And that's my point with Bitcoin. You bought it at whatever, 60, 70,000. It's up to 100. Take your profit. No. It's going to go to 1 million. Yeah. In what life? And then it's now down, I don't know, 80,000. And you just lost 25,000 because it was at 105. And yes, you lost the 25,000 because you could have sold it at 105. And this is where people just don't know how to gamble, don't understand that Bitcoin or Tesla or anything is gambling. Now, the difference in gold is I'm buying it to get out of the dollar. There's a whole different reason I'm buying gold, to get out of this piece of crap. So I'm getting out of this crap, and my only option is the lifeboat, gold and silver. Now, I'm not profit taking that because it's not even started to go up in the real world. And then if I do profit take, we're in stocks, I could get out of Tesla, going to Coca-Cola. If I get out of gold, where am I going? I remember I don't want to be in paper. I'm buying gold to get out of this. So if I sell the gold, I get back into it. Well, wait, the Titanic's sinking. I don't want to get back on the boat. So you really don't profit take gold at this point. It goes up really high. If you want to, buy a car or, buy something because everything's collapsing, then you could sell it to get money only if you're going to spend the money right away. I want to buy the car. I'm going to sell enough gold to buy the car. Here's the car. Okay, fine. But I would recommend buying the car with the gold. So it's not a profit-taking solution. All right, I want to go on a vacation to Hawaii. I made a lot of money in gold. Okay, I can sell an ounce, pay for the tickets, pay for the vacation, and that's fine. Okay, so that makes sense. but I'm not, if I buy 100 ounces, I'm only selling one. I'm not selling 100. So that's the difference. You're not profit taking gold because you're getting out of the dollar to get into it. So therefore you would never sell your gold, take the profit because your profit's in dollars, which has no value. So that's the only difference. Stocks, I'm going into another stock. So I want to take my profit. Bitcoin, I want to take my profit and get into gold and silver before that explodes too much. So what he's talking about is the portfolio managers haven't really started getting into gold yet. And you certainly, now some have to get into the ETFs. We don't want ETFs because they're not real and you're not going to get physical gold. We understand we want physical gold, so we are not getting into ETFs or stocks. We are going to the store and buying physical, and that is drying up because it's very limited amount of how much there is. There's 210,000 tons of gold. There's 32,000 ounces a ton. But the central banks are all buying tons of gold. They're not buying, me and you buy ounces, they're buying tons, and they're not selling. They got to get out of the dollar. That's what they're doing. And so now in their vaults, they got nice gold. And they don't want to get rid of them. They're buying them for security. So it takes them off the market. So of the 210,000 tons, let's call it 215, the 215,000 tons, most of them are in bars and central banks in China and Russia. There's maybe 2 or 3 tons floating around for the whole world. And as these different countries like the euro and the British pound and start collapsing, having no value, you're going to get demand by the whole world to buy gold, not just us, not just America. And that's why we got to buy it now, because we see what's coming. And as we see what's coming, you have to buy it now and just hold on, as I told you. And now we're what, 17, we were at 3040, but we're still over 3,000. 3016, it'll probably end 3030. The derivative happened, so now that's done. We just don't get China buying it tonight because it's closed till Sunday night. But what we see is it's hard to do the derivatives because people won't, because you have to, you cover it, right? So when you have the derivatives, the other side says, I want to take delivery of the gold. There's no gold to take the delivery of. It's all gone. So Comex gold basically is gone because the only way you can do the derivative is somebody's going to take the delivery is to have the gold in your hand to deliver, of which you don't. And it's certainly going to be a lot more expensive, as like the Super Bowl game where the first 70,000 this year bought, and then the next 70,000 wanted to pay more for it. Profit, stop trying to figure out my woman. First, that they all live in their own little world. I'm not trying to figure out your woman. I'm telling you about my girls. But yeah, I mean, the point was if they don't respond, it's not you. If you're good to them and they want you, the only reason they're not responding, and then some girl like Jenna, she would respond every day to me. Where Daria kind of loses me a little bit. Same thing with my other one. She kind of loses me, every once in a while I hear from her. Usually when she needs something. Otherwise, she's out somewhere else. But, we'll see each other for dinner. But that's the point. Women, when they need you, so it's the trust issue, which Daria and Alyssa have. It's when they need you, they contact you. Like Alyssa needed a ride. She called me. If she didn't, she wouldn't have. But that's okay because she knows she can rely on me, which is important. Everybody needs that. But same thing with Daria. When she needs me, I need money for food or something, or help me with medical, or this is what's going on. I'm there for her. So she's not giving that up. She knows how important I am to her. She's lucky she found me, and I don't mind it. But that's what it is. But it's not. I'm not trying to figure out your woman. I'm just saying my women basically what they're doing. But that's why they don't necessarily. Women are into themselves, and sometimes they don't respond because they're trying to work it out on their own. All right. Back to Mark.
Fund manager has maybe 0.5% exposure to gold. That's interesting. So this fresh incoming investment demand into already tight supply indicates 3,000 gold is massively underpriced. So let's take a look at the footprints and where they're ultimately headed and why. And as we summed up in our last episode, into stretched out physical gold delivery timelines, which are delivery defaults by no other name, an increasing percentage of leveraged Comex paper market gold longs, they're fully paying up their Comex positions to force physical delivery. Now we call this the sticky open interest component, which is the fund managers who are buying it for a reason, for the right reasons. But it's also forcing large Comex outflows into the exchange traded funds, compounded by physical buyers targeting the Comex backdoor EFP mechanism, the backdoor EFP mechanism, which is the Achilles heel. And because that then forces a non-compliant, a non-Basel III compliant paper price, if it lands in London on a T+1 delivery basis in a compliant market, and what was previously cash settled comes into full physical settlement into this Basel III compliant local London market. Now, look, it's easier to illustrate when we pop in to look at the charts. Now, I'm recording this just for reference ahead of FOMC tonight. Obviously, you'll have that number when you see this published on Friday. But just for consistency, I'm recording this between the AM and the PM fix. In fact, the pit has just opened because we're only a 4-hour difference. It's at 12:36 AM to 12:36 PM in the UK. And this is where we recorded it last time between the AM and the PM fix. So just to put that into context. And what we're really trying to illustrate here is the structural bullish change in behavior, which is the paper to physical market behavior, that is becoming increasingly difficult for officials to hide. Now, there's insufficient non-sticky open interest. We've talked about that multiple times, which is really, we're just talking about the cash settled speculator held bets, which are dwindling. So there's insufficient of this open interest to target to generate historical sell ignition waterfalls, which we've experienced over multiple years. In fact, these large Comex short covering footprints into higher prices and declining open interest closely mirror the period the BIS, that was the Bank of International Settlements, moved to square all their remaining asymmetrically imbalanced gold.
Right, he's getting a little too much. He gives something good right about here. So, New Wine, how are you today? An A+ for understanding economics. That's the hard part. But the women, I don't know, bro. What I'm saying about women is the expectation, and they're all different. Some women, they talk to you every day, some don't. And that's what I was saying. The ones that I'm not getting the response from, I'm trying to figure that out. But I'm very analytical, so I'm a good problem solver, so I'm trying to figure the problem out. So, yeah, I know women are their own animals, but all people are. Some people, you're doing expectations. So if you call somebody, like here, you just sent me a comment. You expect me to read the comment. If I don't read the comment, you're going, why the fuck isn't he reading my comment? So it's the same thing. When you give the comment, that's why I do it live. When you give the comment, you're expecting a response to it. So I do appreciate, yes, that's why I got the master's in the Austrian economics, and I understand that very, very well. And thank you for that. The women, I'm trying to date a Russian girl from Russia, so that explains a lot. But you just I just try to treat people nice and see what happens. But yeah, I mean, um, more so than that, we stick with basketball and football and that. My basketball picks today: Xavier over 160, Michigan State under 152.5 are my 2 5-star. I did pick every game if you're interested. And at this point, we'll go from there. But back to Mark McGwire. So Mark's sitting there saying how he sees the paper going away to the physical because they just can't do it anymore. And then the key is people are buying the gold on Comex because it is cheap. As I say, the real demand for gold's up here and the real Comex is down here. So everybody willing to spend, let's say this is $5,000 and it's at $3,000 are going, this is great. We can buy it for $3,000. I'm willing to spend 5 on it. Same with silver. I'll spend $100 an ounce because I got to get out of dollars and it's sitting on Comex at $33 an ounce. And that's what's fucked up. And that's what he's trying to explain is that Comex is too cheap. So you can buy this really cheap, even though your demand's up here. And you can see it as gold was 2,500, you bought it. At 2,600, you bought it. At 2,800, you bought it. At 3,000, you're buying it. It keeps going up and up and up. And we're buying it. There hasn't been a point where we say that's too expensive. Because the thought of buying gold is to get out of the dollar. So therefore, there is no price point where it's too high because you have to get out of the dollar before it collapses. So how to say that in women terms, I don't know. But that I throw it out just for everybody because I'm sure a lot of people go through the same thing. Well, why isn't she responding or this or that or how to figure this out? Now, like I said, not all the girls do that. Some do, some don't. Jenna, pretty much every day I had a text, good morning, how are you type of thing. So it's all relevant on the girl, but I'm going into a situation where they're not responding when you're expecting them to, and you're like, what the fuck's going on? And it's just in their mind, they're just busy. They'll talk to you, but right now they're busy. All right. Back to Mark McGwire.
Exchange gold.
Good question. Comments.
And so the moment it was crossed against the dollar and became T+1 deliverable, 1-day deliverable, it also placed the non-compliant paperback Comex futures diluted prices into the crosshairs to be targeted by central bank sovereigns and institutionals. However, the inward-facing siloed paper market was actually granted, and this is where it gets interesting, they granted the Fed an additional 2 years extra time to repatriate sufficient fiscal bullion to repay billions of mismanaged, rehypothecated Treasury gold IOUs. Now, while repatriating bullion has been a slow process, under the bid-pull volatility, and we note there's no fresh shorts in excess of what can be offset directly by rinsing naked long speculators, so they do not dare to add any shorts beyond that because they're trying to repatriate. So really, with shrinking open interest, that's becoming more and more difficult. So what we're saying is the paper to physical exchange for physical gap has steadily been closing, picking up significantly. And that was, if you remember, we refer to this is when the Shanghai Futures Exchange launched a physically backed futures trading citizens on the 1st of March 2024. Guess what this did? It's a futures contract that is physically backed. Now, given the Fed is the only global central bank resisting higher dollar-denominated gold price, they were exposed as the sole lessee of the gold subsequently borrowed from the Bank of International Settlements to try and contain an orderly repatriation process. However, the reported Bank of International Settlements data makes it impossible to hide that the hundreds of tons of unfactored Chinese buying systematically forced the Fed to continue to repay a series of higher repayments of bullion borrowed much lower in order to try and effect this repatriation. So we fast forward to now. Now, by October, here's October. By the end of October, the BIS here had been caught severely wrong-footed. And basically, that was $800 higher than where they started selling short at 2,000 spot. Now, while the Fed was able to bid, but there was enough momentum longs who got on board. And so, again, this is about how many speculators they can rinse out and suck in short. So they were calling a top. It was all the media was talking about a top. And we saw, which was, again, a bid pulled air pocket, not adding shorts. I want to make it really clear that that's what was going on. But by the end of the year, as the BIS squared, they managed to square a little bit lower than $800. It was still $600 higher than when they started borrowing this gold from the Bank of International Settlements. So what happened? In short, the Fed misjudged the enormity of this fresh PBOC-sanctioned bullion demand, which survived every single synthetic market attempt to paper down the price as a series. So
what he's saying is that you shorted something that's highly demanded. So China wants gold, the demand's huge, and the US is shorting it like an idiot. You're betting it to go down, but the demand makes the price go up. So real sharp guy at JP Morgan. What a bunch of idiots. All right. Let's see.
It puts the short-term, chart chatter, I guess you would call it, into perspective, right? Now, in our last episode, just 2 weeks ago, we looked at the next inflection point that brought into focus the tariff uncertainty. We talked about the Trump tariffs uncertainty and what's happening there. And now we've had a lot of questions in the community about this. And can you update us on how this black swan event is actually playing out now?
Yeah, Shane, it was tariffs, Trump's tariff mandate that really caught the Fed flat-footed. And the sudden race to repatriate paper gold positions into safe haven first-year gold exposed the inelasticity of the available physical bullion at current prices, meaning there just isn't enough bullion at current prices, meaning that it has to be bought back at higher and higher prices. Now, we previously posted the link and took apart the LBMA video. You remember this video that the LBMA came out, and they were saying, oh, yes, the idea, 8 to 10 week refiner delays for Comex compliant 100-ounce bars. They're just related to Comex exchange and, really trying to spin it as, no, they're not real shortages. That backfired. And it drawing really unwanted attention into the real extent of the global supply shortages at current prices. And despite allowable double accounting rules, making the true extent of the supply problems, hiding them, it's been the failure to physically load out the 400-ounce standard bars from the Bank of England LBMA vaults into a Basel III NSFR T+1 delivery protocol. It's that it hasn't moved that's really exposed the true scale of these delivery defaults. Now, we've previously drawn attention to the largely ignored GC, it's called the GC4 Enhanced Delivery Contract. We spent some time looking at it, which enables a local London 400-ounce bar to remain in the London vaults without physically moving to the US vaults, so yet it's counted as there. Now, these flows also synthetically assist in closing the EFP spread, i.e. the spread between the paper price and the physical price. And as an example, we witnessed this into an attempt to block central bank buy stops at spot 3,000 from getting tripped off last Friday the 14th. We knew that Asia would come in and take it, and sure enough, they did. Now, these failures to deliver have not gone unnoticed by competing central banks who have doubled down on targeting and locking in Comex registered inventory for delivery, alongside locking in exchange for physicals at the AM and PM fixes for Basel III compliant market delivery. So in other words, central banks and sovereigns and the large buyers need a fix. So you might intraday it be higher and lower, but usually it requires an actual fix to mark that to market. So a size, large size to market. So into all of this maelstrom of bullish inputs, the Fed trying to prioritize 400-ounce bullion repatriations ahead of an upcoming US Treasury gold audit is something that would never have happened had Trump not taken the helm. Now, these repatriation efforts have made it very risky to short sell paper gold into such large physical demand, and it's what has driven the unnaturally widened EFP spreads, the paper spread to paper to physical spread. In other words, the paper price being so much higher than the physical price. And it was gapping to levels not experienced since the 2020 COVID refinery lockdowns. And the EFP spreads simply represent the higher cost to close out an unbacked paper bet against global-facing deliverable gold and silver. And I should add that while the Fed employs agent bullion banks to do the heavy lifting, every single bullion bank, without exception, is actually long bullion for their own books, i.e. they act as an agent. But this is where it gets really interesting. US market Basel III compliance on July the 1st will have as dramatic an effect on the gold price as when the FX gold market was brought into compliance on the 1st of January 2023. So in order to comply, the audit will have to be concluded well before the July compliance date. Now, the realization that hundreds of tons of underpriced paper market positions will have to be marked to a market price where a real seller of a fully owned bar is actually willing to put it on offer. What it does is telegraph much higher true supply-demand prices because they're not going to be paper diluted. And to give an idea of the scale of the next move higher, in line with what we projected when the FX markets became Basel III compliant in January 2023, the minimum next staging point for spot gold to rally was projected at 3,000. Now in sync with what our liquidity providers say we projected will ultimately cost an extra 3,000 to buy the same ounces of gold, forecasting a minimum of 3,300 gold price by the end of the second quarter. That's very conservative. And a realistic 3,500 by the end of the fourth quarter. Then we're looking at very large moves higher. Now, these are conservative targets. Now, more immediately, and for reference, we're recording this episode on Wednesday the 19th, ahead of FOMC later today. We continue to anticipate a battle at this all-important next higher 3,000 spot gold stair step, currently being established as we get as the next physically supported rally point into the second quarter. Now, if there's any non-sticky long open interest rates, it'll be into FOMC today. And depending on, because we're recording this ahead of that, and you'll have that data obviously on Friday when this is published. But if anything, and then you get the end of month stuff that Shane was referring to at the beginning. So yeah, but this is where the support levels now appear to be settling in. So it doesn't matter if the Fed is, whether it's a dovish or a hawkish outcome, probably hawkish. So we may get some volatility into the end of the week, but dips are viewed as healthy, consolidative behavior into fresh physical and ETF buyers reported as coming in from the sidelines in large size.
All right, now, Andrew, you've been drawing attention to gold coming to the attention of a large influx of U.S. funds managers. You've been talking about this. Now, in many cases here, they're not mandated to hold physical gold, so they're buying the Comex related, exchange traded funds, the ETFs. But unlike the usual speculators who borrow gold from the casino, these U.S. buyers are fully paid up. And they're not able to be rinsed out as easy and as usual at the end of the month here on what you call the wash and rinse cycles. Now, can you update us on the effect of what's happening here?
Yes, Shane, and we're seeing it play out as we speak. As we focus on this really because many technical analysts are still of the opinion that when the published open interest expands, talk about the number of chips in play, which is the casino chips in play, basically, that it provides fuel for the pit managers to basically profitably rig end-of-month speculators selling waterfalls. What we've been drawing attention to was the published open interest, though, is increasingly strong hands, making that very difficult. And as we looked at last time, with gold outperforming every other asset class, bar none, a rising gold price has not gone unnoticed by fund managers who have never looked at gold investments before, and this massive move into gold has only just begun. This is the point. February alone evidenced an all-time record high of 4.9 billion flow into gold funds alone, and that so far, and that's we're talking about US funds, and so far it looks like March is going to exceed that significantly. Now, this gold has to come from somewhere. And with demand competing with Asian investment demand, and that it is bolstered by rising prices, so higher prices gets people more interested in buying more gold, just as it did when gold took off from 2000, when the Shanghai Futures Exchange launched back in March 2024, driving an $800 rally, which really railed against every top caller at the time. Now, with an increasing percentage of futures market bets moving into the hands of funds seeking long-term exposure to gold as an alternative first-tier asset class, it's forcing bears to fold bets against gold and driving the 50-year unbacked paper to real physical gold gap to close. And as we know, many funds are not able to hold physical gold, so they buy shares in Comex-related ETFs, exchange-traded funds. And these bets are seeking exposure to gold. But they're sticky in nature and unable to be rinsed, as you say, into even when they rig synthetically constructed wash and rinse cycles. In fact, quite the opposite. People have figured the game out. The change in behavior is what we're evidencing here and now. And the physical-facing market-making insiders are aware and taking advantage of this bullish structural change in the composition of historically unbacked futures markets becoming backed. And the fresh in-house demand is also competing with the Fed, trying to race to buy back underwater leases at market ahead of the July 1st Basel III compliant deadline. And why would it expect more attempts to cap 3,000 gold into large derivative bets being marked to market into options expiry next Wednesday, and first notice comes directly after that, and then the April contract then expires. Now, or these people are going to have to fully fund these positions for delivery on Friday the 28th. Ultimately, there's far too much offsetting a fresh safe haven buying evident at current prices for the cartel to sustain any lasting downside traction. So spot 3,000 has been secured for certainly. We've got 4 fixes now. When I recorded the episodes, there was an AM fix. Now we've had a PM fix above 3,000. So we've got 4 fixes already as of today. So what that's done is actually allow central bank sovereign and institutional buying to be locked in at these fixes. And while we don't count out the usual two-way action around a round number, especially when it's starting the next $1,000 milestone. I mean, 3,000 is $1,000 milestone, as was 2,000 being exceeded back in March 2020, a year ago. It's becoming the next physical staging post, as it was back then, a year ago, for the next leg of a physically underpinned rally. There will be little in the way of the next 3,300 staging point. Now, exchange for physical spreads will begin to normalize at the end of the quarter.
All right, Andrew, in our last episode only 2 weeks ago, we looked at in detail at the silver coiling for a very strong rally into the 38s. So what are you seeing here?
Yeah, if you recall, when we recorded our March 5th episode 2 weeks ago, silver was being exposed, it was being capped at, it was $2 lower at $32, where it was pretty obvious that capping at $32 into a strong demand undersupplied global market was going to become way too difficult, as insiders were being forced to short cover so as to accommodate New York dealers actually taking physical delivery to cover their Comex short exposure. So alongside large backdoor loadouts, this was really forcing the price higher. And now the battle for $34 is there, but once rinsed, liquidity providers are seeing little resistance until the 38s. Now, and that's just short-term stuff. It's not realized that silver will be a major beneficiary of US market Basel III compliance. So liquidity providers see that the cartel's critical upside breakout level is very low hanging, above 34. So they may be closer to 35, but it's low hanging and ready to be triggered. And spot silver is readying to breach massive short stops above that level. A pit close above 34 should trigger large short covering process to begin. Now we're looking for clues for the breakout into the massively expanded exchange for physical spreads. They're starting to contract. That's the clue. It's getting very risky shorting silver into a 4-year and growing supply deficits and very strong Chinese and Indian demand. And while these spreads are volatile, as the fight plays out, narrowing spreads are telegraphing an imminent upside breakout. And while these spreads have been as high as $1.38 per ounce, capping at this level expanded the EFP spreads to as high as 86 cents just this week to try and block 34 from getting filled. But each risky, asymmetrically imbalanced spread will continue to narrow into very strong Asian buying next week, making it very risky to short silver. Also, Bretton Woods OCC stablecoin interpretation is going to force compliance of FX derivative silver and gold. So there is another input which has not yet even been factored in. We'll do something about this next time. But really, just to sum up, with every single liquidity provider and all the bullion banks anticipating it's going to cost way more dollars, pounds, euros, etc., to buy the same ounce of physical gold and silver, the only question I have to end with is how well are you positioned to protect your wealth? This is not a...
How much physical do you own? So as we see, good news across the board. Gold will go to 3,500, and then it'll stop a little bit. But I think you're going to see a big tidal wave because with the return on investment of gold and silver, well, mostly gold, if the portfolio managers start putting it in their portfolio through ETFs, maybe gold stocks, it'll run up, and then they're going to make money on it, and they're going to want to keep it, and that'll drive the price up with the demand. And so I see 3,500, and then I see 5,000, because then it's this mass of people coming into it, like realizing, hey, look at gold. Yeah, and then, but they won't even realize it's because this is crap. They won't realize that this is worthless. That's why they're buying it. They're going to do they're going to do a Bitcoin. Well, Bitcoin's at 80 grand. I'm going to buy it because it's 80 grand. They don't understand why they're buying it. You're buying gold because this is worthless. That's why you're buying gold. And people need to understand that. Which they won't. They'll just buy it because they're going to make money at it. And that's what people do. Anyway, so let's see. I think we looked at Egon yesterday.
Debt markets are a disaster. Whoever buys government debts is going to lose a lot of money because governments are going bust because they issue so much debt. So that will affect the risk that you are looking at, because if you hold government bonds, they will just go down in value dramatically and interest rates will go up, in my view. We are in a rising interest rate cycle. That is not a pretty situation for both the world and for investors.
Check out this APY on uninvested cash. With Robinhood Gold, you get...
So there's Egon. We showed you yesterday. Europe will die soon. Basically, the top 10 countries, the biggest ones, the UK, Germany, Italy, France, because they have no value in their dollar. They printed it to death. They have huge debts. They have huge Social Security, or they call it pensions. There's a lot of older people that want their money, so they have to come up with money to pay them, money for the debt, and their money's not worth anything. And they're all going to come into gold, the people that can afford it, because they're in the same boat we are. Their money, this euro, the British pound, is not worth anything. None of the money is worth anything in the world. Poland has the zloty. Ukraine has the hryvnia, Russia the ruble, China the yuan, and besides the euro, none of them are worth anything because they're not backed by gold. It's just paper. All that's going to come into gold, and there's not enough gold to handle it. So now you're buying secondary, and the price will keep going up and up and up. It's like we're betting on a football game that's already been played. And I think we know who's going to win. So let's explain it with Tom Brady here. This is a rookie card, high demand of Tom Brady. He's won 18 Super Bowls, and he's retired, and he's no steroids and not a Barry Bonds. It's a Bowman Chrome, not a Bowman. It's a rookie card, and most importantly, it's a refractor, which is extremely limited. So when you add all these factors up, you have a very highly demanded card because it's his rookie and it's a refractor and it's Tom Brady, and it's very, very limited. So I saw a 9 going for like 150,000, and I'm thinking this is a 10, but there is a little, you can't tell because it's a refractor how the picture is, but there you go. So it's very highly demanded. It's like gold, very limited supply because it's a refractor. So that's what you're looking at. That's why the Montana is the same way. Overall, it's not a limited card. If it's a PSA 10, because it's hard to get it centered, it is a limited card because there's not a lot of 10s. But again, you have Montana. You have his rookie. You have limited in the fact it's a 10. That's what makes it limited. By Barry Sanders, you have Barry, but you only have 99 of them. So how many are 10s out of the 99? I don't know, but you only have 99 to start with. So you know this is very limited, high demand. It's Barry Sanders. So you're always looking for investments that are very limited but highly demanded. You cannot have it limited without demand. If it's limited without demand, you don't have anything. I mean, look at Roger Clemens, very limited, but there's no demand because he did steroids, or Sammy Sosa or Mark McGwire. Those cards should be worth a ton. I don't really get why the sports writers have this issue about keeping him out of the Hall of Fame because he did steroids when steroids was legal. I really don't get that. And it's not like Barry Bonds hit 770 home runs because he was on steroids. That had nothing to do with his hand-eye coordination. Same thing with MMcgwire hitting 75 home runs. Had nothing to do with steroids. Had everything to do with he could hit the ball because he was hand-eye coordination. So that's what you want in all your investments, something very limited with high demand, and then you'll get high price. And so that's why you go after the older cards, right? You go after the 65 tops, the Pete Rose, the Mantle, the Willie Mays, the Hank Aaron, because it's 1965. So the odds on you finding a PSA 10 or even a PSA 9 of those stars are very, very rare. So those prices will be, I think we saw on Willie Mays 65 tops, PSA 9 was like 80,000. Just because how many out there, it's limited, but it's Willie Mays makes the demand high. And that's what you're looking for in all this stuff. Rolexes, that's why I talk about it. But to buy stocks, they're not limited, and they're only in demand because the stock's doing well. But what's happening with Apple? Nobody wants their phone. Nobody's got $1,700 to buy an iPhone with. So that creates the price. It's not limited. There's too many shares outstanding. The demand's there only if they keep making earnings, but once their earnings slow, you see the stocks tank. Or Tesla, you had high demand, but now wait a minute, he can't sell the Tesla. He can't sell his car. His rocket ship blows up. Yeah, probably staying away from that one. There goes demand. Now, was it a low supply? Probably not. It's a stock. And then you got Elon Musk, who'd want to be on his team? I don't want to be on his team. Guy's like an idiot. So you're starting to see that, but you're better off in cards because Brady, Montana, you don't have to worry about them not making earnings, and it's limited, and wait till it goes worldwide. Wait till the Chinese get a hold of football, football cards and stuff. So gold and silver we know is very limited, and the demand hasn't been there because of the other choices. So let's say we're at Baskin Robbins ice cream and there's 32 flavors, and we're in chocolate fudge, but there's chocolate and vanilla and other flavors. So nobody, it's getting lost in the choices. Because you can buy all these stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, and then real estate trusts, or you can just put your money in the bank. And therefore, there's so many options what to do with your money if the money is good. And what we discovered, the money isn't good. And we discovered that all the other flavors have a problem, but chocolate fudge is the only one that it's healthy for you, let's say. So now the demand in chocolate fudge is there, the price goes up, and that's what you're looking for. Maybe that's a bad example, but what I was trying to say is there's other things you could put your money into, stocks, and then there's 1,000 stocks you could put it in. Apple and IBM and Coca-Cola and Microsoft and Disney. So you have all these options what to do with your money, and the problem is you don't want it in stocks. So once you determine that stocks aren't the play and real estate trusts aren't the play, you want the money out of the bank, you now go to gold, and it's very, very much the demand's growing, and it's very, very limited. We know gold was very much limited in supply, but the demand for gold wasn't there yet. It was coming. And then they play their little derivative games to keep the price down, to keep you not interested. They're trying to keep the demand down. Oh, look, the price is low. I'd rather be in Bitcoin. Look at it, it's 100,000. And it's obviously going to just keep going up and up. Wait until it went down. Just like roulette. Oh, it's going to be, red's been hitting. It's going to just keep hitting. The next 100 rolls are going to be red. Yeah, really. It doesn't work like that, fella. You might get on a roll with red, but it's not going to keep going. Excuse me. So, with that said, let's see. So with that said, that's kind of how economics works. If you have a lot of something, the price is lower than if you have a little of it, the price is higher because there's more people wanting it. So that's where the supply. So a low supplied card, if you have the demand. If you don't have the demand, then that's why gold didn't go up before. Well, it was always price fixed, but let's say there was the demand was low, even though it was limited, the price was low. Now that the demand's coming and everybody's realizing I got to get into gold, it's still limited, but now you have the demand and you can see the difference in price from that. And that's what you're trying to find and look at. So let's see with that. Let's see what gold's doing now. Gold's at 3,014. Silver close to 23. There's too many derivatives here and not enough physical here. This is where silver is going to start acting like. So this goes till about 5:30 today, and it's already 2:00. So you can see how this was bullshit at 9:45, going from 20.35 to that. Just a second. Hello?
Hey, what's up? Are you still doing class?
I'm just wrapping it up. Are you at home or?
Well, I have a situation, but call me when you're done, okay?
I'll call you back 5 minutes.
All right, bye.
That's okay. So, as you hear, I'm going to call it. So, that's what you have is the 3014 we know is bullshit. And that's how we look at, right? We know, again, it's all paper, it's all derivatives. So we understand the game, right? It's like understanding a football game. Oh, yeah. Look how good the defense is of Philly. And you realize that and you bet them accordingly. I bet them a lot under because you ain't scoring on that team unless you have a Mahomes or Burrow. And even Burrow only got 37. But Philly was scoring a lot with Barkley and they got a lot of turnovers. So, but you understand the team, right? Who's Kansas City? Oh, Mahomes. Yeah. Oh, Burrow on since okay. And so then you can bet them and understanding the dollars being printed to death and what gold is and how limited it is. That's what you're looking at. So that's really what the key is. So that's why the demand for gold hasn't even got there yet. And I'm looking at the whole world are in the same boat where their dollar is printed to death. Any country, the UK, Germany, Italy, the whole euro, the yuan, the ruble, all of those countries' dollars are the same. They're all George Soros. They're all worthless. But gold, you can't inflate and you can't ruin it. That's the beauty of gold. You can't counterfeit or print it. So gold sits there. Gold is the 99 count Barry, right? Barry's 99. That's all you can do. You can't print more. This is card 73 of 99, and that's it. And you can't do anything with it. So there's only 99 berries. And that's how gold is. There's only 210,000 tons. And that's it. And they'll dig a little out of the ground, but it's immaterial. And then with the whole world wanting it, China, Russia, India, Saudi Arabia, Dubai, South Africa, Brazil, as all these countries want it, they just take it. and they're going to take, 1,000 tons at a time. Now you got to ignore these idiots that say, Russia's got 2,000 tons. Russia's got at least 30,000 tons in Putin's swimming pool. China was 60,000 tons, and their citizens own another 10 to 20,000 tons. India's got 30,000 tons, and I'm sure Saudi Arabia's in the 20s. There's most of your gold's gone. So it's not, and it goes into bars and it goes into the safe. You ain't touching it, and it's not leaving unless there's a good price to leave it. So you basically have this huge demand, and the supply is gone, and that's what we're looking at. And it's the same with silver. Silver, we need to get the demand's getting there. It's the supply that's being bullshitted because of they're printing the derivative, their paper. They're flooding the market with paper silver, but we don't care about that. We want physical. And so once they start pricing it in physical, which is very close, you'll see silver at 1,000 an ounce. And that's really the key to it. So that's what's going on. Let's check our basketball. I'll go through that one more time. So our first bet is Baylor plus 1.5. Should be over by now. Oh, Baylor's up 67-60. There you go. I gave you Baylor plus 1.5. That looks like it's going to win. I gave you Alabama minus 22.5. They're up 10 early in the second quarter. They'll get going. Iowa State over 143. It's 37-24 in the first half. So it's already at 161. I got Memphis over 147. It's 12-7 early. Then we got Duke under 140. We've got Vanderbilt under 136.5. We got North Carolina under 155. We got Maryland minus 10.5 against the Grand Canyon. I love that one. Where do you go to school? I go to the Grand Canyon every day. That's my school. We got Florida minus 28.5. Kentucky over 151. Marquette over 152. Arizona under 166. UConn minus 5.5. Xavier over 160 is my 5-unit big play of the day. And my other one is Michigan State under 152.5 is the other 5-unit. And the last game, I'm taking the Liberty and 7.5 against Oregon. And that be the picks. Nothing. I'm not looking at the free agency's done in football. We're only waiting for Aaron Rodgers to sign. If Minnesota doesn't want him, then does Russell Wilson go to Minnesota? Is the only question. God knows it won't be Kirk Cousins. He's been there, done that. And he sucks. And I can't understand why teams pick up Daniel Jones. Like, Jesus, the guy sucks. So if you go to him, you're really in trouble. Anyway, so that's what's going on for the day. Look for gold. Just buy whatever you can buy. Silver is like 33. Just buy it. And don't look back. Just keep buying it. And that's where you're at with it. Gold, very limited. And it's highly in demand. And that's not going anywhere. And as they keep fucking up with the dollar, and these countries have high debt, high people who are getting pensions, which they need to print the money for, military, they need to print the money for. And what nobody's really understanding is when you do that, the money's worthless. You kill the value of the money. So people think the Keynesians, the MMT people, the Jim Reicherts. Well, you can just keep printing money. You won't run out of money. Yeah, it happened in 1923. The Reichsmarks were useless. They printed millions and trillions of them, and they just wallpapered their wall because they became worthless. That's the thing that these idiots don't understand. Yes, you can keep printing, but what you're printing has no value. But they don't want to look at that. They just say you can keep printing, you won't go broke. Anyway, so that's really what's going on. I got to call Alyssa, see what's going on. I hope to hear from Daria this weekend. I hope she's okay with the minor operation on her. I don't know if they're going in through her cheek or what. She's got a little problem with her tooth or something. And that's it. So I'm sure I'll hear from them, and I hope she's okay. Otherwise, yes, that's my little idiosyncrasy. I'm a very organized, controlled person. So if I send an email out, I expect an email back, or a text to get a text back, or a call to get a call back. It's the way I am. When they don't respond, I will call back. And usually it's not because they don't want to talk to me. They're busy. And so I just got to realize that. And that's it. And some of them are like that, some aren't. But anyway, I got to call Alyssa back. So have a very good day. I hope you're liking my little pictures I put on my videos. So a lot of it's my trips to Vegas, just to pretty it up, because otherwise you get this view of me. So I'm trying to liven it up. So have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful weekend. www.teaserking.com. Good luck on the baskets if you're betting it. And we'll get a little more in-depth next week, as now we got 16 teams. So we're down to 60. We're down to 32 tonight, and then we're down to 16, so then we'll get a better, we can be more analytical. I only have 16 teams to study. So that's be good. So have a good day, Prophet. New Wine, thanks for coming in. Feel free to leave questions. That's why I like it live, to get the comments. All right, everybody, buy your gold, buy your silver, and it's a lot. All right, www.teaserking.com. So the NFL draft's coming soon. All right, take care, everybody.